The envelope arrived on a Tuesday morning, crisp white against the worn wooden porch of Sarah Chen's apartment. No return address, just her name written in careful cursive handwriting that seemed to tremble with age. Inside, a single photograph fell out first, a young soldier in uniform, smiling beneath a military cap, his eyes bright with the kind of hope that only comes from believing the world is full of endless possibilities. The letter that followed would change everything. "Dear Sarah," it began, "you don't know me, but I know you. My name is Eleanor Whitmore, and I am dying. The doctors say I have perhaps 2 weeks left, maybe 3 if I'm stubborn enough. I've spent the last 6 months of my life watching your YouTube videos about random acts of kindness, and they have brought me more joy than you could ever imagine." Sarah's hands trembled as she continued reading. She had started her small channel 3 years ago, documenting simple acts of kindness she witnessed or performed around her neighborhood in Portland. Her subscriber count barely reached 2,000, and most videos received only a handful of views. She had almost given up countless times, wondering if her small efforts mattered to anyone. "The photograph is of my grandson, Marcus," Eleanor's letter continued. "He was killed in Afghanistan 2 years ago. He was only 23, the same age as you, I believe. Before he left for his final deployment, he made me promise something. He said, 'Grandma, if anything happens to me, I want you to find someone who believes in kindness the way I do, and I want you to help them change the world.' I thought he was being dramatic, the way young people often are. But lying here now, I realize he wasn't being dramatic at all. He was being prophetic." The letter went on to explain that Eleanor had been secretly following Sarah's channel for months. She had watched Sarah help elderly neighbors with groceries, organize coat drives for homeless individuals, and coordinate meal deliveries for overworked hospital staff. More importantly, Eleanor had watched the comments section of Sarah's videos slowly grow into a community of people inspiring each other to perform their own acts of kindness. "This is why I'm writing to you, Sarah. I am leaving you everything. My house, my savings, everything. But it comes with a condition: you must use it all to spread kindness in Marcus's memory. Not just locally, but everywhere you can reach. You must help others see that kindness isn't just a nice gesture, it's the most powerful force we have to heal this broken world." Sarah read the letter 3 times before the reality sank in. This had to be some kind of mistake or elaborate hoax. People didn't just leave their entire inheritance to strangers on the internet. She Googled Eleanor Whitmore and found an obituary from the previous week. The photograph matched the one in the letter, an elderly woman with kind eyes and silver hair, surrounded by flowers. The obituary mentioned her beloved grandson Marcus, killed in action, and noted that Eleanor had requested no funeral service, instead asking that any donations be made to causes that promote human kindness. 2 days later, Sarah received a call from Eleanor's attorney. It wasn't a hoax. Eleanor Whitmore had left her house in suburban Portland, along with her entire life savings of $400,000, to Sarah Chen, a complete stranger who made videos about kindness. The weight of this responsibility terrified Sarah. She had barely managed to keep her own life together, working part-time at a coffee shop while pursuing her communications degree. How could she possibly honor such an enormous gift? But as she sat in Eleanor's house for the first time, surrounded by photographs of Marcus in his uniform, Eleanor's handwritten journals filled with ideas for spreading kindness, and walls lined with thank you cards from people whose lives she had touched, Sarah felt something shift inside her. This wasn't just about her anymore. This was about Eleanor, about Marcus, and about every person who had ever felt that their small acts of kindness didn't matter. Sarah made her first video from Eleanor's living room, sitting beneath a portrait of Marcus. Through tears, she told her subscribers about Eleanor's letter and her incredible gift. She shared Marcus's story, how he had volunteered at soup kitchens throughout high school, how he had sent care packages to fellow soldiers' families, how he had planned to start a non-profit for veteran support when he returned home. Eleanor believed that kindness could change the world, Sarah said to the camera. Marcus believed it too. Now it's up to us to prove them right. The video was different from her usual content. It was raw, emotional, and deeply personal. Sarah expected maybe a few hundred views from her regular audience. Instead, something unprecedented happened. The video began to spread. Not just among her small community, but across the entire platform. People shared it with friends, who shared it with their families, who shared it with their coworkers. Within a week, the video had been viewed over 1 million times, comments poured in from around the world. People shared their own stories of loss, of hope, of small kindnesses that had changed their lives. But more importantly, they began sharing what they planned to do. A teacher in Ohio organized her entire school to write thank you letters to frontline workers. A group of teenagers in Brazil started a community garden for elderly neighbors. A businessman in Japan began paying for strangers' groceries every Friday. Sarah realized she was witnessing something extraordinary, the birth of a movement. She used Eleanor's inheritance wisely, setting up a foundation called Marcus's Mission, dedicated to amplifying acts of kindness worldwide. But the foundation's role wasn't to organize kindness, it was to showcase it, to connect people who wanted to help with those who needed help, and to prove that individual acts of compassion could indeed change the world when multiplied by millions of hearts. The movement grew organically. People began using the hashtag #MarcusMission to share their acts of kindness. Teachers incorporated kindness challenges into their curricula. Companies started Marcus Days where employees were encouraged to perform anonymous good deeds. Hospitals reported that patients were recovering faster in wards where staff implemented daily kindness protocols inspired by the movement. 6 months after receiving Eleanor's letter, Sarah stood in the United Nations General Assembly, invited to speak about how grassroots kindness movements could address global challenges. She carried with her the original photograph of Marcus and a journal that Eleanor had left, filled with her hopes for how kindness could heal the world's divisions. Eleanor Whitmore never got to see this, Sarah told the Assembly of World Leaders. She died believing that one person's kindness could matter. Marcus died believing that his grandmother's promise could change something. But they were both wrong about one thing: it wasn't one person's kindness that mattered. It was everyone's. Sarah went on to share the data that researchers had begun collecting about the Marcus Mission movement. Cities with active Marcus Mission chapters reported decreased crime rates. Schools with kindness programs showed improved academic performance and reduced bullying. Workplaces that embraced the movement saw increased productivity and employee satisfaction. But the most powerful evidence wasn't in the statistics. It was in the letters Sarah received daily. From parents whose children had learned to resolve conflicts through kindness, from elderly people who no longer felt isolated thanks to volunteer visitors, from veterans who had found new purpose in community service, from refugees who had been welcomed with open arms by strangers who believed in the power of compassion. The movement that began with an elderly woman's final wish had become proof that kindness truly was contagious, that compassion could cross every boundary, and that ordinary people doing extraordinary things for others could indeed change the world. 2 years after Eleanor's death, Sarah returned to her grave on the anniversary. She brought with her a folder thick with letters from people whose lives had been touched by the Marcus Mission movement. She read them aloud to Eleanor's headstone, sharing stories of kindness from every continent, in every language, performed by people who would never know Eleanor's name but had been touched by her belief that one person's compassion could start a revolution. As Sarah prepared to leave, she noticed a small envelope tucked beneath the flowers someone else had left. Inside was a note from a young girl whose class had adopted Eleanor's grave as part of their community service project. "Dear Eleanor," the note read, "thank you for teaching us that being kind isn't just about being nice. It's about being brave enough to believe that love is stronger than hate, that hope is stronger than fear, and that one person really can change everything. We promise to keep your grandson's mission alive." Sarah smiled through her tears, understanding finally that Eleanor's gift had never really been about the money or the house. It had been about the belief, the radical, transformative belief that ordinary people are capable of extraordinary kindness, and that this kindness, when shared and multiplied, has the power to heal not just individual hearts, but the entire world. The Marcus Mission movement continues to grow today, now active in over 80 countries, with millions of participants who understand that kindness isn't just a nice gesture. It's a choice to believe in the fundamental goodness of humanity and to act on that belief every single day. Eleanor's last wish didn't just start a movement. It proved that the smallest act of faith in human kindness can create ripples that eventually become waves capable of changing everything. This story reminds us that we all have the power to be Eleanor, to be Marcus, to be Sarah, to believe that our individual acts of kindness matter, and to trust that when we choose compassion over indifference, we're not just changing one life, we're contributing to a movement that could change the world. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe to Pure Kindness Stories for more inspiring tales, and most importantly, share this story with someone who needs to be reminded that their kindness matters. Because just like Eleanor's letter found its way to Sarah, your act of sharing this story might be exactly what someone needs to hear today. Together, we can keep Marcus's mission alive, one act of kindness at a time.